And Errol is inside our Washington bureau tonight. Errol, as you spoke, formal news came out about KT McFarland and Donald McGahn's positions. Any further thoughts on the strategy behind those picks and also the reception so far?
The strategy by the Trump campaign seems to be reward loyalty and show strength. KT McFarland would be the show strength arm of that mentality. She has been a vocal critic of the Obama administration, along with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, whom she will serve under. And they both have specifically said the inability of the administration to use radical Islamic terrorism is precisely what's wrong with U.S. foreign policy. So this is an effort to deliver to those Trump supporters who agree with that sentiment. Rewarding loyalty is what the Donald McGahn post seems to represent. He has been Mr. Trump's campaign lawyer. He's familiar with the Trump organization and its structure. So as his counsel in the White House, he will be tasked with keeping that divide between what Donald Trump does as the top executive and how he runs his businesses. There are already questions of a potential conflict of interest and an effort to get him to put his assets into a blind trust, which he has resisted. So Donald McGahn, someone who is a close ally of Mr. Trump and part of that inner circle, will be tasked with taking that job. The reception here in Washington among Republicans has been mostly positive. KT McFarland had served in previous Republican administrations, Reagan, Nixon and Ford, as she also advised Henry Kissinger in the early 70s. So she's somewhat familiar here in Washington. Democrats, though, because of that hardline stance against what Republicans describe as radical Islamic terrorism, are fearful that this post and that of Lieutenant General Flynn could run the risk of potentially violating the rights of Americans, since Donald Trump did pledge while campaigning to ban Muslims entirely from entering the United States, something he has walked back. But the question is how forcefully he will push that forward. So Democrats concerned, but Republicans liking what they're seeing so far.
And a position yet to be announced, but highly anticipated, Secretary of State. Now, you went through the very public jockeying that's going on. How unusual is it for the conversation to be playing out quite so publicly? And anything else you can tell us about what might be happening behind the scenes?
It is very unusual. You're seeing some of the contenders there, but what will surprise most people is Mr. Romney on the far left, a vocal critic of Mr. Trump. As I mentioned, he has rewarded those who have been loyal so far, but he has also shown an ability to provide posts to those who have spoken out against him in the past. He's done that with Nikki Haley, the South Carolina official, who is being given the post of ambassador to the United Nations. The reason so many of his insiders are frustrated about Mitt Romney being considered for this really top pick, this plum job, America's top diplomat, is they aren't confident that he would really prioritize Mr. Trump's America First agenda as much as other contenders would. Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, had been the self-proclaimed front runner for Secretary of State. But when it was made clear that he had received money through his firm from foreign entities, it could possibly create a conflict of interest. It's been reported that Mr. Trump leaned more towards Mitt Romney after having a one-on-one meeting this past weekend, which went longer than expected. But to have Trump advisors, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, his current campaign advisor Kellyanne Conway, vocally and publicly say they do not want Mr. Romney to be Secretary of State is very unusual. It would create a very uncomfortable situation if he was selected in the end, but they wouldn't be saying it unless they felt that Mitt Romney had a real shot. So we're really just witnessing what should be internal private discussions play out publicly, and Mr. Trump hasn't been seen publicly in a few days, so it's feeding into that as well. All of this will be settled when he finally makes an announcement on this front.
And are there any bigger conclusions we can draw about the way Donald Trump will govern based on the way his transition team is managing the move into the White House?
Well, one interesting report is that Mr. Trump has only decided to take 2 of the daily intelligence briefings, these highly classified briefings that are now offered to him as president-elect, while his vice president-elect, Mike Pence, has decided to take these briefings daily. They're a compilation, a summary of the 16 intelligence agencies plus U.S. covert operations. And that's leading some to wonder if Mr. Trump is spending more time on who he will appoint in his cabinet and among his staff because he really wants wants to delegate responsibility to them, while he is really concerned with larger visions and the larger direction of the country. When you look at who he appoints in his inner circle, Steve Bannon, who will be a chief advisor to him, is considered an outsider and was feared by many Republicans. But Reince Priebus, the RNC chairman, as his chief of staff, will balance that out. So it seems as though Mr. Trump will continue to have to walk this fine line between delivering on the promises he made on the campaign trail and to those disaffected Republicans and some Democrats who put him in office to bring change to Washington, but also to work with Republicans in the House and Senate to get things done. Not an easy thing to do, but he's trying to get things ready for his first 100 days when he will put all of these proposals into action.
Not an easy thing to do and not an easy thing to follow, but Errol Barnett is doing it for us, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Errol.
You got it.